So today we'll be talking about Google Data Studio. So Data Studio is a lot similar to Microsoft Power BI. It's not as detailed, it doesn't have as many features as Power BI, but it's kind of the same logic behind it. So what it can allow you to do, it can allow you to work with external data. Now, to be able to understand what we're doing today, you have to understand how to work with pivot tables. So if you haven't watched the pivot table video, please go ahead and watch that first to understand how pivot tables work. And I'll link underneath this video to that pivot table video. If you haven't watched it, you probably want to go ahead and watch that first. So last time in a pivot table, we built this pivot table, year-to-year report, and so on. So, and a lot of things you'll be doing using Google Data Studio have this idea of pivoting behind it. So first of all, we have this data set, we have the dates of our individual transactions, sales representative who sold on that particular day, the region in which it was sold, the state, which is a two-letter abbreviation of the state. We have the brand of product that was sold, the cost of goods, and then we did this couple of formula calculations to get the year and the month out of the date, and also the month as the name of the month. So that's where we're at with our data set. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to Google Data Studio and I'm going to use this data to get some report to Google Data Studio. So I'm going to go to Google Data Studio, and what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go ahead and create a new report. So start a new report, this plus button. And these are my existing connections that I already have. So if you don't have a connection to your Google Sheet yet, the first thing you want to do is create new data source right here. And here's where we have a lot of data sources that we can use for connection. We can connect to AdWords, for example, to get some reports. We can connect to Google Analytics. You can also, if you have your data on a MySQL server, you can connect to your MySQL server, which is pretty awesome, YouTube data, and so on. But right now we're going to do Google Sheets. So I'm going to go under Google Sheets. And if you're clicking here for the first time, you may not get what I'm getting because it may ask you to give permission to access the data. So the kind of screen you're probably going to get the first time is similar to this. So it's going to ask you to authorize the connection, and you'll go ahead and authorize it, and you're going to get the connection to your Google spreadsheets. In my Google spreadsheets, I'm going to choose the spreadsheet that I had. So the spreadsheet was this pivot table spreadsheet right there on top. So I'll go ahead and click on that. And then in that spreadsheet, if we take a look, we have three tabs: transactions, summary, subtotal. Now I want to use the data on this transactions tab. So I'll pick transactions. Now here we want to use the first row as headers because our first row is our column headers on top. So that's great. And we'll also include hidden and filtered cells, although in this particular case it doesn't matter. We don't have anything hidden or filtered. So I'm going to go ahead and hit connect. Here we go. So now what we want to do, it's going to pull all the different fields we have. And you can see how we have the date field, the sales rep field, and so on. These are the same columns we have here. So the first thing we want to do is assign what data type each column is going to be. So for example, these three or four actually are text data types. So close this. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. See, text already chosen. That's great. Now we have sales and cost of goods. These are dollar amounts. So I'm going to go sales and cost of goods. See, currently it picked that as a number. I'm going to switch it to currency in US dollar. And the same for cost of goods. It's going to be currency US dollar. Now, the year it accurately picked up, it's a year. Month it accurately picked up, it's a month. Month name, text, that's good. Now the date is our next one. So if we go under date, we want to pick this date column to be the date. So I'm going to go under date and time. And here I'm going to see what types of date formats Data Studio accepts. Now, unfortunately, Data Studio date format is different than the date format we have in our sheets. So we can't really pick any one of these because it's not going to work. So for right now, I'm going to leave this date as a number, and later on I'll show you how we can deal with this. I'm going to go ahead and give a name to this report. It says untitled report, so we'll call it I don't know, sales report, and we'll click add to report on top now that we have selected all the different fields we have and what data types they're going to accept. So I'm going to click add to report, click add to report again, and now we're in our report builder. Usually the first thing you want to do, you want to start with the layout you're going to have. So generally you're either going to have a kind of very light, maybe white background with different items on it that are dark, or the other way around. Now usually I pick light backgrounds for reports because I think they look more professional. But since I've been using them for so long, I'm going to switch this from the simple to simple dark, and I'm going to do the opposite this time. So I'm going to do dark background with lighter, foreground on top. So I'll go with my theme, simple dark. That's where I want to start before I do anything else. So I want to switch back here, and now I'm ready to create my reports. So there are different type of things we can pull to our report. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to bring a table. Table is basically a data table that represents our report. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the table, and I'm going to draw the table in this area where I want that to show up in my report. And the nice thing about this, as an end result, we're going to be able to share this report without actually sharing the actual data. So right now you can see how it automatically decided that it's going to do our sales per sales representative that we have, and it's picking the metric as the date, and it's adding up all the dates, which doesn't make any sense obviously in this particular case, but this is why we'll have to work with it and modify and make it what we want to be. So similar to pivot tables, the first thing we have to do in our pivot tables, usually we pick our values field. Now in this particular case, the values field is going to be our metric. So right now, see there's this metric on the right. So currently the metric is the date, which doesn't make any sense. We're not going to sum up or add dates. So I'm going to click on the date, and it's going to give me different other metrics that are available. And as you can see, it's only showing us currency and number of fields. Is not showing us any of the text fields as a metric. So I'm going to go ahead and pick sales as our metric. Give it a second, and now click back. So you can see how we have our metrics. We have our totals per each sales rep. I'm going to also switch the dimension. So similar to how we switch rows values in our pivot tables, this is going to be the same as our dimension is. So I'm going to just pick sales rep and switch it to a different dimension. So for example, in our pivot table report, we're doing our report by brand, right? So the same thing I can do here. I can just pick brand as my dimension and click back, and just like that, we have our report. So we have our different brands and how much the total was for each brand, which is great. Now I can go under style at this point while I'm clicked on this particular object and decide that if the font size is too small, we can decide to increase the font size to whatever we feel is appropriate. We can obviously increase the size of our table, and basically all kinds of other things we can do here to make this nicer. not a big deal. Now what we could do, we can uncheck this show pagination because we only have like 10 brands and it fits in our data. Now the next thing here is our idea of compact numbers, so we can go ahead and click on that and it's going to change the formatting. So instead of showing the full dollar amount, we can use this compact dollar amount, which is going to truncate and show in this format. So that's actually pretty neat. It looks pretty good. And another nice feature here, we can actually resize these different columns and make them the size we think works better for us. We can also uncheck row numbers if we don't want these on the left, as you can see. So there it is, that's our nice report. So I can go ahead and do this, resize that, and if we want to give this much space to this table, we'll do it. Now a lot of times you may want something that indicates what this is, so you can go and click on this text box and give the area to type, and you can change the font size to whatever you decide you want it to be and type whatever you like on top. So we're going to call this summary, or just call it sales by brand, and obviously can move this around and place it where you like it. So there it is. So far we made this much of our report, so that's pretty neat. Now we can also add something to get what our total sales number is. So we may want to know how much total dollar amount we have in sales. So again, to do something like that, which is like a single number, you can use this scorecard. So I'm going to click on that, and again you can position where you like it. So again, this is not a design lesson, we're more concentrating on functionality. So there it is, we have this. So again, it's picking the first metric on top, which is the date. We're going to have to switch that date from being a date to sale. So that's our sales field. Our metric, I'm going to go back. Now again, I want to make this a little easy to read. Right now it says 4.959, and so for this is this almost 5 million number we have. So I'm going to go under style here and make it as a compact number. So that's our 5 million number right there. That gives us the total. So far so good. Now that's that. Now a lot of times, in addition to all of this, we could also want, because this gives us the total for all years combined, right? Now I'm going to show you later what a lot of cool things we can do with dates, but for right now I want to just think about, let's talk about filtering our data. So I can go ahead and add this little filter control, and I'm gonna place it over here. It's probably not the best positioning for it, but should do. So now we're gonna choose which field we're filtering by. So the dimension is going to be, I'm going to filter this by year. And click back. Now I don't want to show the values for the metric, and the metric should really be sales, not date. Clicking back. Now I don't want to show the values here, what the total is. Now I could, but I'm just gonna uncheck that. And we can resize this and make it this size. Obviously you can go back and style this more. You can make it expandable, which will be like a drop down with all the values. You can change the colors, the header color, the background color. Right, so oops, that was not a good choice for a background color. Let's switch it to something darker. So there it is. That's gonna be our nice filter. So again, what we're going to do step by step, we're gonna build our report that we're going to share with somebody else to be able to just see the results. So once we're done with our report, or at least to view what it's gonna look like, we can click on this view button on top right. We're gonna get this. So this point, if I uncheck 2016, it's gonna grow and update my report. And this is gonna be the final result that we'll be actually sharing with other people. So if we are trying just to see what's our total for 2015, we can click on this only, and now it's just gonna filter our report. And you can see how we have the new sales number, and for each brand how much it is. So I'm gonna go ahead and click edit and continue building my report. So some of the greatest features here, so there are a lot of good features here, but we can also do a lot of different charts. But in addition to all the basic charts, there is this GeoMap chart. So we can create a map that shows our sales on a map, which is a great feature. Now, because we have this column with states, the state, it's a correct state abbreviation in each column, we should be able to use this to draw a map that's going to show us what's our sales in each state. And what I'm going to do, just go ahead and click on the GeoMap, and I'm going to place map where I decide I want it. I'm gonna maybe move this around. Now you see it says invalid dimension, obviously, so we're going to change that dimension, and what we'll have to pick is a valid dimension. So first of all, let's change this to sales. And the second thing we'll want to do is pick this as our dimension. Now it's not allowing us to do it for whatever reason, so I'm gonna have to check why. Invalid dimension metric filter selected. Right, so we'll have to go back and take a look at our fields and see if we have a problem someplace. So I'm gonna click on the source, edit data source, and I'm gonna try to see what's going on here. So I'm gonna scroll down. So we have the state, which is the one that didn't work. So I'm gonna switch the state to geo, and I'm going to say that that's gonna indicate the state. Where's the state? Oh, it's gonna be the region. Is the state. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick the region, hit continue. So there it is. So and again, this should give you a good understanding about, you know, troubleshooting things. So the type of the field you choose is gonna have direct impact on your reporting and what you will or will not be able to do. So because I didn't have this selected as a region type, as a state, it thinks it's a text field, so it doesn't know that it should treat it as a location. So I'm gonna go ahead and click done in this case, and now state is in our fields list, and we already have our map, and that's our zoom area United States. Perfect. So the reason it's called region, not a state, is because in other countries, in not every country it's called a state, right? So therefore, region, if you're in the US, you want to think about it as state. So right now we can see our nice map results. We can see that wherever we have more sales, it's in a darker color. Wherever we have less sales, in a lighter color. So you can also change that color palette by simply clicking on a map and going under style, and you should be able to just give different color. I'm kind of fine with that coloring, So I'll just keep it the way it is. Now another interesting feature here is that if I go under view to view the end result, which is what we're going to be sharing, if somebody hovers with a mouse over this map, you'll see that it shows the number in dollar amount that we had in sales, and on the right it also has this little drop down. Once you, and if you're not hovering over it, it doesn't show up, but if you do, it shows up. So we can go ahead and click and export this to CSV as a report. So it's going to be our state by state sales report, but we're fine with this. So there's our map, there's our sales numbers and so on. Now again, the same way, see this, the California, we have apparently the highest numbers in California, almost $500,000. So if we check what it was in just 2015, which is our filter here, it should now update and gives us the new numbers for our states with that filter applied. So now I'm going to go back and edit. At this point, what I want to do is add another filter for our different regions we had over here. So far we've used the state for the map. We did use the brand for our initial report. Now I want to do another filter by region. Again, I'm going to click on this filter control. I'm going to place where I want those filters to show up. Now I think I'm going to use a different type. I'm going to do the drop down type of filter here. This is where I want to place it, which was probably not the best idea. Maybe I should move the map down and put this on top. I'm sure you can do that yourself. So I'm going to go ahead and pick my dimension to be the region for filtering, and go back, and I don't want to show values, and we'll go ahead and switch this to sales as a metric. Now at this point I want to uncheck show values. So under style, I'm going to switch this to expandable, which is going to make it a drop down. And if we want it, we can change it to a different size, color, and all that stuff as usual, right? So I'll just check, do a little background here, I guess. Too light. Something like that should be fine. So we'll go under view. In this case, we have the same report, but we can go under this region and pick which regions we want. So if I want just Midwestern, that should update our report so we can see how we just have our Midwestern states in here. And if we wanted just a single year, like 2015, we can go ahead and pick that as well. That's going to be our 2015. So we have our sales numbers, we have our dollar amounts, and now as you can see, I see that this number is pretty large. So maybe as a design idea, we may want to move these things around a little bit. Possibly I would want this above this and put the map below. Something like that should work just fine. But that should give you a good idea of basic report building. I think we'll end this video on this, and then in our next part what we'll do, we'll start dealing with dates. And to deal with dates, we'll have to convert this dates, which are this Google Sheets dates, to the format that our Data Studio is going to accept and understand. Alright, I'll see you in the next video.